Are you an adventurer looking to take your hunt to the next level? Then you're in the right place. Welcome to East Meets West Hunt with your host, Bo Martonic.
Okay, we are live. Welcome back to another episode of the East Meets West Hunt podcast, and I'm lucky enough to have Tim Burnett from the brand and TV series Solo Hunter on the line. What's going on, Tim?
Not much. I don't know how lucky you're going to be, but I'm glad to be here anyway.
Yeah. So what's going on today, Tim?
Today's just one of those days trying to keep motivation and finish up the last few projects before hunting season rolls around. For those of us in the West, it starts up pretty quick.
Yeah. What's your first hunt looking like?
My first hunt, I fly out on August 7th, and so it's coming up, what's that, 3 weeks? Less than 3 weeks away, so trying to cram to get the episodes done and then get all my gear lined out together. Seems like the first hunt of the season is always a cluster for me.
Yeah, that's always getting ready for that first hunt, and you figure out what you don't have and what you forgot, or where you can't figure out where things are at. But
yeah, usually I just leave everything in my backpack, but I shipped my backpack somewhere to, I don't know, anyway, I don't have all my stuff in my pack, so it's kind of it'll be good. Like, I like that last minute stuff because I know that I've got everything, but it's still kind of, you're frantic because I probably end up buying stuff that I already have. I just can't find it. You know, it's like my dad's tools. He's probably got 16 of each crescent wrench, but it's because he couldn't find it. He just went and bought another one, you know?
Yeah. No, I understand. Yeah. August 7th there, that's coming up, like you said, extremely quick. I've never hunted in the month of August at all, so I don't have any experience with that extremely hot weather like that, I'm sure.
Where are you at? Are you in Pennsylvania, New York, somewhere on the East Coast, you said?
Yeah, I'm in Pennsylvania. So I'm from north central Pennsylvania, and kind of through the Appalachian region there. And yeah, we don't our whitetail season doesn't open up to usually like the last weekend in September, early October there. But other than that, goose season opens up September 1st, but that's about it. So besides when, if we head out west, and whether that's Colorado or whatever, sometimes the season's open, the third week in August there, but that's about the earliest that I've seen so far. But it's
sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say hunting season is definitely coming upon us quick. I can't believe how fast it's coming.
Yeah. Well, that's why God invented golf and fishing, so you could have stuff to do all year round.
Yeah. I'm not much of a golfer. I can't hit the club real well. But anyways, Tim, so do you want to before we get into this a little bit here, do you want to give a brief description of yourself and what Solo Hunter is all about?
Yeah, so Solo Hunter's been around for a while. I guess the concept of it's as far as the TV show goes, it's myself and Remy Warren. We've been working together since 2010. And, every once in a while we'll feature somebody from the Solo Nation, whether it's a fan or, just somebody else that's self-filmed a hunt and feature that on the episode. But for the most part, it's Remy and I, and then my brother a little bit. But it's the concept kind of came about as just self-sufficiency, self-reliance. It wasn't necessarily focusing on just being alone all the time, but more just when you don't have others to go with you, whatever, just kind of the fact that a person is strong enough to do some things on his own. And that's really kind of where it took off and exploded. And so I think just being able to like what you're doing, being able to make a plan and execute it and make it happen, whether it's a hunt or a podcast or anything else, that's really just kind of brings me a lot of satisfaction. So Solo Hunter is on the Outdoor Channel, has been since 2012. I was on the Sportsman Channel for a couple of years before that. Also, pretty strong web presence with YouTube and our website, and now just recently on Amazon Prime Video. So if you want to see anything solo hunter, just Google it and you'll find it.
Yeah, the Amazon Prime's a nice touch. Now that's where I've been looking at the episodes with not having TV anymore for the last few years.
Yeah,
that's nice addition to YouTube as well. But yes, so the idea that you had there with solo hunter and everything, that's the biggest reason why I wanted to reach out to you and talk to you was that's the audience that I have and the brand has within the podcast seems to be the most questions that I get are surrounded by, I don't have anybody to go with, or, no one wants to commit and have the same goals as me. And that's a tough thing to realize, but it's still definitely possible to do these type of hunts.
Yeah, I think that's one of the lucky byproducts that I fell into with just the name Solo Hunter and being able to brand it and everything. It's amazing how many conversations I have with partners and with people. It's like with Under Armour, we were meeting with them at the last ATA show, and they said it's overwhelming the amount of questions and things they get that are wrapped around solo or doing things alone or on their own. And so I think it's just kind of a lot of people are that way. You drive down the freeway on a commute, how many people are in the carpool lane? Not very many.
Yeah.
A lot of people cruising in their cars by themselves, and you just think to yourself, you're like, man, are they like me and just leave the radio off? Do they listen to podcasts or listen to the radio? And you just realize that society and people in general have to have the ability to entertain themselves or to live within their own mind, because we do spend a lot of time on our own, alone.
Yeah. And that's right now I'm sitting in a hotel in Southern Virginia for work. I'm down here all week, by myself, and all the time I spend a lot of time in the truck driving and going to different places by myself. So it's definitely a concept that can be applied to all aspects of your life there.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, hunting's a small part of the equation. I still spend a lot of my time, whether it's traveling or working or hobbying, alone, and I think that's the nature of a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. So why did you decide to, pick up a camera and film it? How did that idea come to be?
I'd been filming hunts since I was young. I mean, when my dad was a school teacher, and for part of I don't know what the heck they call it, but the art department or whatever, the school provided video cameras, and they're these gigantic beta video cameras that recorded onto I don't know what, the big VHS tapes or something. So he brought those home, and I must have been 6th or 7th grade. And I just kind of fell in love with cameras. And it was weird because as a kid, we grew up dirt poor. We didn't have cameras. Like you'd be hard pressed to find a picture of me under the age of 12, but I just really liked how video worked and everything. And I remember going out and filming my brothers and I farting around on the farm. And then, it just kind of was something that interested me, just like anybody else. Some people get interested in photography or race cars or mechanics or whatever it is. That just kind of struck for me. So then when I got out of high school and went to college and got a job and started making a little bit of money, I bought a video camera and immediately started filming. At that time, I wasn't trying to film hunts. I was just trying to film everything that I did hiking around in the mountains, because I was a big, Marty Stauffer fan and Omaha, a Mutual of Omaha, and all those National Geographic, like all of that. I was just super enamored by it, and always told myself that that's what I wanted to do when I got big.
Yeah. So was that something that, as far as the hunting side of things, was that something that you've grown up hunting your whole life, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So yeah, we had my dad didn't hunt. My mom kind of did as a kid, and my grandpa did. He'd always bring us salami from the deer that he killed. He'd bring each of his grandkids a stick of salami, and we were lucky. There was a retired Navy guy who moved out to the valley where I grew up in Lost River Valley in central Idaho, and he moved out to work out at the site. And he was just an avid traditional archer and bow hunter. And my dad was laying carpet in his basement on one weekend, and my little brother came home. I remember he came home and he already had big eyes to begin with, but he was like just so starstruck. He's like, dude, you got to come check out all these bows and arrows and, hunting videos that this guy has. So we went over to his house and just, his son, I think, was 2 or 3 at the time. So he was in his late 30s. So he was like stoked to have these young 11, 12, 13-year-olds to mentor. And we just kind of fell right into his family and just taught us everything that he knew about archery, and watching all the hunting videos with Dwight Shue and Larry D. Jones and Wayne Carlton, like all the dudes that I still look up to today,
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And what state did you say you grew up in?
Idaho. Lost River Valley in central Idaho. Yep. Okay.
Gotcha. So you were right in the midst of the Western hunting from the beginning.
Yep. What's interesting in that area, I mean, it's amazing elk hunting now, but I think in talking with some of my good friends' dad, he remembers when they transplanted elk into that valley in 1976 or something like that. So, it's really amazing. By the time the early and mid 90s hit, elk hunting was amazing. So in just such a short amount of time. But yeah, it's out in the middle of nowhere. There's not a lot of city encroachment it's just outside the range that somebody's going to drive for a weekend hunt. So if someone's going to go out there and hunt, they're serious about it.
Yeah. And I had a little bit similar story. I mean, as far as where I grew up at was kind of the middle of nowhere in Pennsylvania. And I don't know how much time you've ever spent in Pennsylvania, but for the most part, people think of, Pittsburgh, Harrisburg, Philadelphia. But the north central area, actually what they call the Pennsylvania Wilds, has 2.1 million acres of public land, and it's mostly dense forest and through the Appalachian region there. So I grew up right in the center of that.
Yeah, I spent a little bit of time up there in southern New York and northern Pennsylvania, and Binghamton, and then down into Sayre, Pennsylvania. Like, I spent some time out there. It's a beautiful country.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a beautiful area. So we got, into whitetail hunting, bear hunting, turkey hunting, everything from a young age, as well. And definitely once I moved out of there for a little while, and I worked down around the Pittsburgh area now, it took, that's when I really realized how lucky I was to grow up in an area like that you had so much, just public land to be able to hunt, and just the ability to be able to go anywhere. I mean, it seemed like anywhere you walked out your door, you were able to hunt, and it's
right.
Not that case where I work at most of the time, and it made me appreciate it that much more. So when I first experienced the West, it reminded me of that, with having so much federally owned and state owned public lands.
Yeah, I can't imagine myself. Of course, I grew up in it, so maybe that's what kind of conditioned me for it, but just the sheer vastness of it, and just the sense of appreciation for freedom, and you feel like you just have total freedom and flexibility when you're out there within the bounds of the laws. But same thing, I live here now in Reno, Nevada, the south side of Reno, and it's like you can get into the city, but you can get out in the country a little bit, but it's just not the same,
Yeah.
But,
no, I'm sure that's a little different there.
Those poor guys in the Midwest and more on the East and Texas and all that, they're just like you have to have permission to go anywhere and all that. Like, I can't imagine that.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Even like I said, down in the Pittsburgh area, a lot of my friends there would be like, "Oh, I lost my hunting property. I don't know what I'm gonna do now." Stuff. I was like, "Geez," That's why still every weekend, I drive 2.5 hours north to get out. Even since in Pennsylvania we can't hunt on Sundays. I drive all the way up there for one day of hunting when I can, and everything else. But I'd need to get away. I can't do that small parcel thing. And the fact that the landowner could change their mind if you're not lucky enough to own a lot of property, then you're out of hunting. And I don't want to hear people's trucks going by and this and that, dogs barking, and kids in the playgrounds. That's kind of hunting isn't really for me. So being able to get out is a big deal.
Yeah, that is one thing that is really, really cool about those heavily populated areas, though, in the Midwest and the East, is that there's still a crap load of white-tailed deer, and anybody can still, if they work hard, they can still find opportunities to hunt, and even though they are in these urban and metropolis areas, guys are killing deer right, I think, within even the city limits,
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool that you can actually even be able to do that. Out here, you might go a stretch of 10 or 15 miles, and in a 20 square mile area, there might only be a handful of deer,
Yeah.
So it has its challenges too at the same time.
Yeah, no, it definitely doesn't mean it's easier suburban style hunting like that, and that's what I work at an archery shop as well, and some people that bring in some just ridiculous deer, old whitetail bucks and everything that come out of the city limits in these small wood pockets. It just blows my mind, and just like their strategies are just so different, but they all have their own difficulties with them.
Yeah, but it's a unique challenge. It's at least the opportunity is there, which is pretty dang cool, because without very much effort, it could be taken away, in the city areas.
Yeah, but I mean, with that being said, the one biggest thing, and again, with working within an archery shop, Pittsburgh's top archery shop, we have a lot of people that funnel through and have the idea of they want to go out west to be able to get away from all of it. They like whitetail hunting and doing everything in those suburban areas, but they want to kind of get away from the concrete jungle for a while. And you grew up in the middle of it, but if you had to pick, a species for someone to get started or get introduced into Western hunting, do you have anything specific that you would recommend?
Probably the easiest would be to maybe choose a state that has some over-the-counter opportunities. I mean, it takes out a little bit of the long-term planning for it, but it also, takes out some of the. It just makes it easier for you to know that, hey, I'm going to be guaranteed to go hunt this fall, instead of learning how to put in for other units and put it for limited draws, and then maybe or maybe not draw those tags. So I'd look at states that have over the counter, whether it's Colorado, Idaho, California, Washington, Oregon. There's a lot of states that have over the counter opportunities.
Yeah.
But from a solo perspective, I would recommend starting out with mule deer, just because it's a pretty daunting task when you get an elk on the ground. What are you going to do with it unless you've got that support system of guys there? And also, I would recommend, if you're coming from the East and wanting to do an adventure style hunt, do like you did and bring some friends, plan it together so that you can experience that together. And I think that it would enhance your ability to enjoy it a lot more than just saying, oh, my first mission out west is going to be a solo mission. It's like, man, you're kicking yourself in the nuts from the very get-go.
Yeah, it definitely can be. And I'm in a few years in of doing it now, but the way things lined up this year, my brother's actually going on his honeymoon in September to Alaska. So he kind of kicked me there by setting me off. So I'm going to go. I have a lot of time to hunt this fall, actually, and I'll be heading out for quite a few weeks, either 2 or 3 weeks in Colorado this September, and I'll be doing a decent amount of it by myself for the first time, so that'll be interesting, as well as and then I'm meeting up with a group of guys that they're coming out for a week, so it'll be a good mix of it there.
Yeah, and I'm sure with your podcasting, as you're kind of coming into the industry too, you'll find that there are a lot of people that are very giving of their time and resources that want to see people succeed. And it's like, all of us out here on the West, we kind of root for guys to come out because we want people to be able to experience it. Of course, we don't want them in our spots, but we want them to be able to experience it,
Yeah. No, that's funny.
I think that's probably the number one question I get asked is, hey, I'm getting into archery. I'm having troubles finding elk. Can you give me some pointers on where to go to hunt elk? It's like,
Yeah, somewhere in the western states.
Go to Colorado. Go to Colorado.
Hey, don't send them down there. Yeah, that's no, Colorado was the one I chose from the beginning just because it seemed to have so much opportunity, and it was, a closer drive than some of them. But with that being said, it's also closer to everybody else from the east and just as easy to buy a tag. I mean, you can go to Walmart and buy a tag right then and there as long as you have your hunter safety card and your ID with you. So it's awesome to have those opportunities, I would say.
And the country is so vast, I mean, there's so much countryside there. You could have a lot of hunters in a relatively small space, and you're not going to rub each other's elbows. I mean, that's, I think a lot of, like, my brother's bad at this. We'll go hunting somewhere, and there's a couple trucks parked there, and he's like, screw that, I'm not going there. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, those guys are probably half a mile up the trail. They're probably on these ridges that we can see from right here. Let's just park here and go in just a little bit deeper,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the biggest thing, when you can't, really scout an area, coming from the east. I showed up to the trailhead not knowing what to expect and saw there was 15 vehicles there. And I was just heartbroken from the beginning. And what I ended up realizing was that 95% of them were hikers because they were Subarus I saw from the beginning. And the other 5% of hunters just ran the ridge trails. And that as soon as you jumped in one of the steep canyons there, we never ran into anybody else for 7 days. And it was nice. You can definitely, get away from it. But
yeah, I've been doing it for a long time, and it seems like most of the places where I hunt and where I have consistent success are areas that I've hunted for years on end, so it's, I can't imagine, well, I can, but it's a lot more difficult to do like what you did and come into a situation where all you've ever done is looked at it on your Onyx map or something, and you've marked a few waypoints and then you get out there and reality sets in. You're like, damn that Google Earth, these mountains are a lot steeper than they look on the map, So
yeah, that was the biggest thing when I had I had the Onyx up and I was drawing, putting waypoints to places I want to check out, and then you get out there and you're like, shit, that is way, way bigger than I could have ever imagined,
Oh, it's daunting sometimes. I mean, I'll even get to a mountain range and I think, golly, those mountains look bigger than they did last year,
Yeah, it's amazing.
I think your perception gets thrown off when you're in the same town for a lot of time. You see the same mountains all the time, and then you get out and stretch your legs and see some real mountains. Like, takes you a few days to get acclimated to it.
Yeah, I changed the name of the Appalachian Mountains to the Appalachian Hills. When I came back from what I would call mountain whitetail hunting. When I went out west, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna change that. And when Brian, Call, and Jordan came out to Total Archery Challenge, not this past year, but the year before, and Brian hosted one of the gritty hikes, and we were walking. He's like, oh, he was kind of making fun of us about the hills, just joking around. And I was like, it's not. I can kind of see where you're coming from now, because being in Colorado or Idaho, Montana, any of them places, it's a lot different.
Right. Yeah. They're amazing. I think that's another major thing that draws me to them is the mountains they're just amazing.
Yeah, it's hard to take a bad picture in the mountains, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, you were talking about you were saying picking mule deer just because of being able to pack them out a little bit easier. Say you were to have to, or you were going to go elk hunting by yourself. What is it like packing out an elk solo? I mean, I watched your episode on Amazon Prime the other night of you packing that one out here in season 8, and that looked very, very, very difficult. You could see it in your face.
Yeah, that was not a happy time.
No.
That was one of those times where I was, where I was like, I made a bad decision. I should have called somebody, but like my pride gets to me, because I'm the solo hunter. I'm supposed to do stuff by myself. So, but that was one of the more difficult pack outs that I've done.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, I can't imagine, walking up on something that big and then being like, I got to get this whole thing in my pack and get it out.
It's no different than packing out a deer. You just got to make more trips. I mean, you can make each trip as easy as you want. You can make it so you're only carrying a 40-pound pack. You just better be prepared to do 5 or 6 or 7 trips.
Yeah.
And I think that's the approach that I look at it is I know, like, I rarely, if ever, use a day pack. I always use a pack that has a frame that I know I can put 100 pounds on it and get myself out. So I hunt that way, and my mindset, whether it's a deer or elk or anything else, is I get that animal down. I've got to take, all the precious parts of the meat, break it all apart, get everything nice and cool, and haul out a heavy load that first trip. And then on an elk, you go back in and you grab hind quarter, front quarter, hind quarter, front quarter, and you go back and grab the cape and whatever, neck meat, whatever else is left.
Yeah. So, okay. So normally really, about 3 trips.
If you're in there and you don't kill an elk, you still got to hike out anyway. So I don't count that. Like I kill the elk, I load my pack and I walk out, but I was going to have to walk out anyway. Then you go back in and do the real work. And I've packed a big bull elk out in 2 additional trips. It would have been 3 trips before, but like that gets pretty rugged when you're a few miles in and have to do any elevation at all.
Yeah, and that's when a couple of the places that I was hunting in last year, and I went out with my dad and my brother and uncle and a few other guys, and we were all split up the one day, and I was by myself, and I had 2 awesome opportunities at some bulls, and never ended up releasing an arrow. But I was thinking to myself, I'm like, if I get this thing down where I'm at right now, it's just full blowdowns and everything in the dark timber, and it's straight up out of there. I said that was gonna be a trip. Oh. That was going to be a trip, that's for sure.
So deadfall would make it exponentially more difficult. I remember, my little brother Boyd and I, he's one you see on the show quite often. Like we got up in this Lost River range and at 10,000 feet, he had shot a nice 4-point buck up in there the week before. He's like, there's 2 more big 4x4s up there. We got to go. So we get up there and he glasses these deer 400 yards off. He's like, that's them, shoot it. So I shot it, of course. And we get up there, it's a 2-point. Well, we had to pack that thing down, but then we were stupid and we went down into the bottom because he's like, we don't want to go around this other way through this other canyon. It's a pain in the butt. It sucks. Let's go out the bottom. And it was just blowdowns and deadfall. And that was the most difficult thing, is to travel a couple of miles just going over and under and over and under. So I can't imagine doing that with an elk multiple times.
All the places that I ran into elk in this area I'm in is just deadfall after deadfall. I mean, I've had the elk within 15, 20 yards and I can't get a shot because of how thick it is. And so that's going to be interesting. But the one thing that I definitely learned quickly was whatever you look at a map and you think something's a shortcut, don't do it.
Yeah, it's usually not. And you don't want to let the terrain or the distance stop you from killing an animal.
Mm-hmm.
But you better be mentally and physically prepared for the pack out, because it's going to suck.
Yeah.
And hopefully the weather's cool enough that you can preserve all the meat. So
yeah. But
I don't ever want to get into a situation where I don't shoot something because it's going to be too difficult. I mean, yeah. I'm sure that'll happen, but I've dealt with some pretty hellish pack outs just because I didn't want that to be the excuse.
And those make the best stories, right?
Yeah, if you document it, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that one that you had on the video there? You say your worst pack out, or do you have any other stories of some hellish type, pack outs?
No, I'd say, that pack out was relatively easy. It was just a long distance. I mean, I'm 7 miles from my truck, and the road, there was a 2-track road up there, which, you know, I know now you can drive on, but like, it was just a long ways. There was nothing really difficult about it, just the distance of it. No, I would say probably the worst pack out was that little measly 2-point deer with my brother.
Okay.
It just was, of course we're kids too, so maybe that was part of what embellished the story too. But
yeah. Well, that's awesome. And like you said, you know, I'm definitely going to take that advice as far as, you know, a piece at a time, as whatever you're capable of, because no matter what, you know, I'm going to get it out of there. It's just not killing yourself in the process. But the other thing though is I think, and again, you got to suck up your pride and understand what you're actually capable of. And I think I'll have someone lined up, you know, if it comes down to it. As far as a local, you know, outfitter that has a packing service or anything. So
yeah, there's definitely guys out there that can and are willing to haul 120, 150, I don't know, just insane amounts of weight, insane distances, you know, and there's just guys that are physically capable of doing that, which is incredible to me. And then there's guys that are just dirt tough that are just going to grind through it anyway. But I just get to the point where I'm like, you know, I kind of have this max limit that if something feels any heavier than that, the pack's coming off and something's coming out. You know, I just don't push myself to that point, or haven't done at this point.
Yeah, I gotcha. So for when you're hunting alone, and I know you said you don't always hunt alone, but do you have any like specific safety tips that you would recommend, or any say even gadgets or anything that you would recommend?
Yeah, I mean, always the biggest thing is just having a plan and making sure that somebody knows where your entry and exit points are and your time and all that. So it's really just, I mean, my brother and my wife, they always know exactly where I'm going to be and when I'm supposed to come out. And the same goes for me. I always know when and where my brother's going to be and when he's going to come out. And I even leave a printed map. I print out a map of where I'm at for my wife so that she can see where I'm camping. And then if I end up moving, then I'm going to be at a different spot. So I really kind of try to plan it out for her, which is pretty easy because I have to do all that stuff for the film permitting anyway. So I just basically just copy that there. And then I carry a satellite phone. I've got 3 kids and I love to talk to them. I cuddle with them and tuck them in every single night. And that's something that I enjoy doing even when I'm hunting, is I love to pick up the phone and call and talk to them for a few minutes, usually 5 or 10 minutes every day. And that's really kind of my security, you know, security mentally, but also security knowing that if shit hits the fan, I can mash that SOS button and get some extraction.
Yeah. Actually today I just ordered one of those Garmin InReach minis, to take out with me. Yeah, because that's something that I think would be very handy to want to have the SOS button, but also even just through a text message be able to check in with someone.
Yeah, I've looked at those and I've thought about them. I personally like the phone. I like to be able to talk, you know, and maybe some point in life when my kids are gone and doing their own thing, maybe I'll like to talk a little bit less. But for me, it's not much more weight. It's not much any bigger, and I can just dial out and go.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And I guess that makes a difference with me not having kids or a wife. So, so that no one wants to hear me talk that much, but,
you could be like Remy and just go off grid for 3 weeks at a time. And no one really knows if you're dead or alive.
That's funny. I remember even till today, whenever, you know, I'm back at my parents' house, my dad always, every time he goes hunting, he leaves a topo map and where his tree stand may be at, and the route he plans on going in. And if he's not out by this time, you know, he leaves it for my mom, and so that she can, you know, give it to one of my uncles or something to help go find him if something ever goes wrong. So definitely that planning phase seems to be important.
Yeah. before I got married, like that was atypical. My usual thing was like, and that was part of, I think, the adrenaline rush and part of the excitement was okay. I'm going to drive 2 hours to this canyon. I'm going to get to the trailhead at 11 o'clock at night. I'm going to hike up to the lake 3 or 4 hours. I'm going to camp. And like, I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm just going to go do my thing for the weekend, show back up to work on Monday. And like, that was so liberating to be able to just feel like you're 100% on your own,
Yeah.
Which is asinine. I mean, it's totally ridiculous, but at the same time, like, it's kind of a test of yourself and kind of putting yourself in the position that, I got 2 people to rely on. I got myself and God, and nature, and whatever else. Like, there's nobody else that knows I'm here until they find my truck at the trailhead,
Yeah.
And I love doing that, man. I love doing that, but I don't think that it's that wise.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm sure your wife wouldn't appreciate that now either.
Oh, geez. She's got to know if I go to the grocery store or the DMV now.
That's funny. But so the satellite phone is big and the planning phase. Anything else that you would say is a kind of a security blanket or just something that could potentially be life-saving?
I know the guys that do a lot of international travel and that have the insurance policies and, whether it's Global Rescue or some of those, which is probably a smart thing to do. I've yet to do that, but because I spent a lot of time in the States and really haven't seen the need for that. I think the main thing is just having some form of communication, people knowing where you're at, and then obviously first aid and fire starting capabilities. Mm-hmm. Know what you can and can't eat, I guess, at some points. But it's just not being stupid, which is ironic because the whole concept wrapped around solo hunting is pretty stupid.
Yeah, I guess it depends how you look at it there. Do you when you said you hunt mostly in the States, do you hunt Alaska much as well?
Yeah, I've been to Alaska a few times. I'm going to be up there twice this year. So it's just, for some reason, I don't know if it's mid-age crisis or whatever it is, but that state is just calling me. And I've got some really, really good friends that live up there. And I've just kind of made it a point to reconnect with them and go spend some time in Alaska. Because it's Alaska. There's stuff down here in the lower 48 that can compare, but it's still not the same thing. And there's the animals that you can hunt up there that you can't hunt elsewhere, Yeah,
and I just experienced Alaska for the first time a few weeks ago. I went up there and stayed with Heather Kelly of Heather's Choice, and went up there with my brother, and they had like a company retreat. So I went up there with them, and that was the first experience that I've ever had with Alaska. And we put a tent up in their yard, and with Heather and her boyfriend Brad, we threw the tent out in the yard and stayed there. And then we went out into the Chugach State Park and did some camping out there and rafting and everything. And that place was just unbelievable. And just the experience. I am going to hunt there in 2019. I have it planned. Whether that's black bear or if I can make the moose hunt that I want happen, then I'll do that. But
yeah,
even just the fact that I didn't realize how it's a lot easier than I thought to be able to hunt Alaska.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of over-the-counter opportunities. I mean, logistics is the main thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm sure none of the residents want people up there hunting and all that. But the reality of it is it's an adventure that a lot of people want to have. And as the economy's rolling and as people get into certain, financial abilities or demographic groups, like there's going to be people wanting to spend time in Alaska,
Yeah, no, definitely. It almost seemed like a different world up there. And the one morning we woke up to it was 24 hours of daylight when we were up there basically, and during that summer solstice, at the end of June, and the dogs were barking. And then one morning I was sleeping in my teepee out in the yard, and I just kind of rolled over and didn't think anything of it. And I woke up about 15 minutes later, and the neighbor, who's actually Heather's dad, came over and was like, "Hey, there was just a big brown bear in the yard, right over there by your tent." I'm like, "All right, this isn't Pennsylvania anymore."
Yeah, you're like, I should have taken those packaroons out of my tent.
Yeah, I shouldn't have left the wrapper sitting there.
Right. Yeah, those are the little things you got to think about.
Yeah, definitely.
And that goes on here too. I mean, Montana and Idaho, there's plenty of grizzly up there. So
yeah. No, I've never hunted anywhere with a grizzly yet, but that's coming soon, I'm sure.
You got to keep it on your mind. I mean, it's always got to be on your mind.
Yeah, definitely. So let's circle back around a little bit to Idaho. And did you hunt a lot of whitetails in Idaho when you lived there?
Yeah, yep. That was one of my favorite things to do. My two younger brothers went to college up in Moscow, and then my other brother went to Pullman. So we spent a lot of time up on the Palouse and in northern Idaho chasing whitetail. We'd get them occasionally down where I grew up, but never really a huntable population back then. There's a ton now on the river bottoms, but yeah, Idaho's it's got some good whitetail in certain areas, or did, so.
Yeah. Is that mostly in the mountains, or is that more in like some of the big river bottoms?
It's both. The river bottoms, just about every river bottom throughout the state holds white-tailed deer and mule deer. I think that's probably maybe the biggest thing holding them back, I guess, a little bit, or is just the intermingling of the mule deer territory and the whitetail territory. But it's anywhere from the river bottoms up to big mountains. They can be anywhere.
Yeah, that's one of my bucket list hunts to hunt in the Panhandle, Idaho, somewhere in the mountains for whitetail. I want to hunt whitetails in any sort of big forest terrain. Since I grew up doing that, and I started hunting through Ohio and some of the other states, I want to do that out west really bad.
Just go up there, St. Mary's, Potlatch, anywhere up there on the northern Palouse, and you can be in some big country. And I mean, there's some pretty dang good deer. One of my best whitetails is a big 8-point that I shot up there. So
yeah, no, that's awesome to hear. And like I said, I don't know, it's something about whitetails that I love. And to be honest, I mean, even though that I grew up in the East, I've only hunted them in farm country a handful of times. For the most part, I'm just hunting the big woods type environment. So it's not the same mountains as the West, but it's similar environment. From talking to some people that live in Northwest Montana and everything there, and they seem to hunt them similar to how I do in Pennsylvania. So that's why I want to give it a shot sometime.
Yeah, the time I spent in the Adirondacks in upstate New York, it's very, very similar to what you'd experience up in that St. Mary's, northern Idaho area.
Okay.
Very similar. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Well, that's definitely something, like I said, that's on my bucket list to give a shot there. And it seems like most people, when they're thinking of deer in the West, they're worried about mule deer. So if the hunting pressure is relatively low, I'll be okay with that.
No, I don't know what it is. I got bit by the whitetail bug like in 2004. I mean, hunting whitetail deer is awesome. Like if you're in a situation where you're not just going with an outfitter and being set in a stand and told what to do and sitting there, like that would probably suck. But when you can like look at the maps and do everything that you would do for elk or mule deer and chart and then go out and throw out trail cameras and pattern them, like you're hunting those suckers all year round, and it's just weird. That type of hunting gets into your head so much that you get so analytical that you're thinking, okay, I saw this buck on my trail camera here at this time of day. What was the wind doing at that time? What was the moon? And then you're like, oh, I picked up a shed over here. Or, I literally saw that buck on this ridge. Why was he there? And so I'll go as far as taking down what direction the wind was going at the time, which direction he was traveling, what time of day it was, what the month, trying to just put this entire scenario together of why was that deer right there at that spot at that time? Because big whitetail bucks don't usually do things very randomly unless it's during the rut. Like usually there's a plan and a pattern to it.
Yeah, no, that's the same thing I do.
Mountain bucks.
Yeah, they I do the same thing. I use just I mark the waypoints now on my phone, before on the GPS, but I'd mark the locations of, this, where my trail cameras were and everything. Once I'd get that data, certain deer, I'd have a whole spreadsheet laid out. Okay, here's when I picked him up on camera, or here's when I saw him, and here's where I think he's bedding. And then I go back to a website called Weather Underground and look at what the temperature was that day, the wind direction, all this stuff. And I have it all logged in there, and, try to make a plan based on that. And it's fun to do. And it's definitely a mind game.
Yeah. Guys do the same thing for mule deer and elk and find their sheds and try to get pics and all that. Like it's no different for a whitetail. I just think a whitetail just thinks a little bit closer to what a human might think. I don't know. They're a cool animal. Really cool animal.
No, they definitely are. So have you hunted? Oh, you said you hunted at the Adirondacks before then, right?
Yeah, I spent some time up there. Mostly my whitetail experience comes from Oklahoma, Missouri. I've done a little bit in Illinois. I think I hunted 3 seasons in Illinois. So it's all mostly right there in the big whitetail center of the Midwest.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, no, I haven't done much in there. Farthest west as far as whitetail hunting that I've went was Ohio. But hope to do a little bit more of that and see some different experiences. I wish there was more, time in the fall, that's for sure.
Yeah. You kind of have to prioritize, and once you get to the point where you got a family and other responsibilities outside of hunting, you have to take that into consideration. I mean, it's a unique individual that can make hunting their life and be able to focus 100% on it. And, that'd be a sad existence in my opinion, but,
yeah.
You just kind of have to weigh out how important it is to you. Like I really respect you and think that it's awesome that you were able to plan out and execute your first hunt out to Colorado, let alone your second and third, and hopefully your fourth, fifth, sixth, and so on. I think people are really missing out if they're only dreaming about it. They've really got to take the necessary steps, whether it's listening to podcasts, signing up for, an Epic account or a Hunt and Fool account or something like that, where they can get education and resources to go and do it. And then drink less Mountain Dew, start just setting aside a few bucks a week. Next thing you know, you're going to have enough money to go and do one of those trips. And once you get through that first time, the second and third time are going to be a lot more fun.
Yeah. And one of the biggest things that I noticed with me was the first time it was, getting the gear, especially because I wanted to do a backpack hunt. And yeah, you can definitely, cut in certain places and everything a little more than I probably did. But once you have that, it comes down to time, gas, and tags.
Yeah.
And it's not as expensive as everyone thinks. And you can put that money aside no matter what your, income range is. It may take a couple years, but you can figure that out.
Yeah, up until 2004, when I started doing some filming and TV stuff, I was still shooting the same bow that I bought when I was 16. I was still using a ratty Cabela's backpack, hiking around in crappy boots that I bought when I was 18. Like, I spent a lot of years just using basic equipment. I don't even think I had a pair of binoculars until my early 20s, Like, it's not the gear that is going to make you a successful hunter. If you've got that drive and that passion and ability, you go out and kill stuff with a stick bow, wearing blue jeans and a flannel top, and pack it out on your back with no pack if you really want to. So, I mean, we all get, myself included, I'm guilty. We all get so wrapped up into wanting the latest and the best gear because it's going to make our lives easier, which in some cases it does. But, it might be, I love the fact that I learned with nothing, and that I was able to find success early with nothing. I love that fact.
Yeah. No, that's so true too. And in the way that another individual, Matt Comment, who I had on the second episode of the podcast, the way he explained it was, okay, so you go out and you buy a truck, okay? He goes, you buy that truck, it's awesome at the time, it's great, it depreciates value quickly. As you go on hunts or different other style adventures, those experiences don't depreciate, they just get greater over time. And that analogy was perfect, especially when last year I went out and bought a newer truck, not a brand new vehicle, but he texted me and said, "You're driving your sheep hunt." and I was like, "Oh, geez, Matt, thanks for making me feel any worse." But
yeah, I had a friend put it to me the same way. I was like, "How can you afford to go on a stinking stone sheep hunt?" He's like, "I just plan on driving my same old piece of crap truck for another 10 years, So
yeah, that's the way Matt put it to me too. The same way.
Well, and that's what I did all throughout this last, I don't know, what is it, 10 years or stuff of growing Solo Hunter, and not only the TV show, but the brand and the business. I drove the exact same truck since 2005, and I didn't put a lot of money into gear because I didn't have to, fortunately, with TV show and stuff. But like, I didn't travel the world hunting on all these super expensive hunts. I didn't hire a production company to produce my shows. I didn't, whatever. I didn't buy the best airtime on the networks. I got by with what I could get by with that enabled me to immediately start paying my salary. I could immediately jump into this and make the same amount of money that I would be making selling trucks or selling water or putting shingles on roofs. Like, I could make a living doing it, and stuck with that clear through until really this year. Last week I sold my truck, the truck that I had from the very beginning. And it was just a sacrifices that I feel like I made in order to get me to a position where I'm at now, which I feel is fairly comfortable, But I think a lot of times we get so wrapped into wanting to have that new truck. We want to go travel the world while we're young and all that, and accrue all this debt, and maybe not take advantage of, hey, I'm on TV. Maybe I should start a brand instead of focusing on just peddling other brands. Why shouldn't I start my own so I've got some equity and I've got something for the future for when I get fat and ugly and the TV stuff kind of falls away? At least I can still sell bino systems or rifle covers or whatever,
Yeah.
So I kind of, I took that approach, and it's worked for me. But
yeah,
I think it's a hard mindset to have.
Oh, that's funny. And so I definitely have been following along with your stuff for quite a while now, and admire the way that you've built the brand, and kind of tried to take a little bit of a similar approach to when I'm trying to build East Meets West in it. And so as of right now, it's a podcast, an online journal, and an apparel company. And the reason why that I wanted to start the apparel company is I'm a hat and shirt junkie. I like seeing that kind of stuff, and I wanted to design my own. So I learned how to do some graphic designing myself, and built the logo and did everything, and just started making that kind of stuff. And in the midst of it too, I wanted to help out. I'm a big proponent of backcountry hunters and anglers, so I donate a percentage of the proceeds to BHA. And work with them on that. But I like that whole aspect of building the brand, and as you have definitely proved that Solo Hunter, I mean, you can't say that word without someone thinking of your brand, and at least that's the way I see it. Yeah. Within
the hunting space,
Yes.
People are like, "Oh, you're famous." I'm like, in really, really, really small circles, maybe. But that's the hope. I think I was 6 or 7 years into it before I even made my first hats and shirts. Because to me, apparel was the last thing that I wanted to screw around with, because that's what everybody was doing. Now it's a big part of my business, but at the time, that's not what I wanted to start off with. But.
Yeah. Actually, I'm using using one of the companies that is doing your hats, Authentic Leather Company. I'm using them to build some of my hats. I love the way that yours had turned out, and I saw that you had said that they did some stuff for you, so I reached out to them. And
they did a good job.
Have had some hats coming in this week actually from them.
Cool. Can't wait. I think I've seen some posts that you made on Instagram. It's funny. Before you contacted me, I kept seeing this guy with a mustache on a school bus or something pop up on my Instagram feed. I'm like, who's this clown, man? He's popping up everywhere. What's the deal? and then Prime sends me the new commercial spot to have inserted into the show, and I'm like, crap, there's that son B again. Like, he's taking my job.
Wait, did I make one of the commercial spots?
Weren't you in the Prime commercial spot?
Yeah,
Prime?
I remember recording it, but I didn't know if it was what they were doing with it.
Dude, it goes to broadcast tomorrow in Solo Hunter, so you're in it. Yeah, it's there.
Wow. All right.
But it's interesting. And then you contact me. I'm like, that damn Google, man, they're tracking every move. They know what I'm looking at. And the team, it was kind of ironic that you reached out at that point to do a podcast. So I just thought that was kind of funny.
That's funny. I didn't know that backstory there. That is pretty funny. Yeah. The mustache definitely, gained some traction there. It's an unforgettable, creepy look.
Yeah, but you got to keep it now.
I know.
Get rid of it now.
I did it as a joke.
Cody
That's a problem.
Imagine Cody Rich with a goatee and no mustache now. It's just not going to happen.
I know. Yeah, I know. It's killing me. I wish I wouldn't have started it because I coined it the rut stash, and I just used to grow it during the rut of when I would hunt, and it turned into something more than that.
Yeah. Try being the guy that's made being a fat chubby kid as part of your brand. Now I can never get myself fit. I have to stay fat and chubby the entire rest of my career.
I mean, I think I can make that work, Don't have to watch what you eat, but no, that's funny. But yeah, man, is there anything else that you think that you could add as far as any key takeaways for someone looking to venture out west for the first time?
No, I think the main thing is everybody has it within them to be able to make it happen. And there's somebody out there that has that information, is willing to share it. You're obviously one that is kind of taken a point to create a platform and a sounding board to help people do that. And there are others out there that can do the same thing. And then there are resources that aren't very expensive that you can subscribe to, whether it's Go Hunt or Epic Hunts or whatever else, Eastman's, members research section. Like, there's resources out there that you can find the information out. And then social media is probably the single greatest tool that we have in modern day to establish relationships and gain information and make something like that happen. So you don't really have an excuse to not do it. If it's really something that you want to do, find somebody else that really, really wants to do it, and then go do it together. Don't do it solo. Your first one.
Duo hunter. Okay. Well,
yeah, go Dolo. Go Dolo.
Dolo. Okay, that works for me. So, Tim, the one question that I ask everyone at the end of the podcast is, how do you define adventure?
Adventure is anything that pulls you out of your comfort zone and that'll pull you out of your day-to-day element, that you can walk away from and say, damn, that was awesome. Like, that's what an adventure is. And sometimes it doesn't even have to be a hunting adventure. It might be flying to Seattle, picking up a new truck and driving 11 hours back to Reno. Like, that's a freaking adventure. I love it. It could be anything. It could be jumping in your truck and driving to the base of a mountain and climbing a peak that you've been staring at for 12 years and never hiking it. And then one day you go and hike it and you come off that and you say, damn, that was awesome. That's an adventure. So it's anything that'll take you out of the norm, get you out of the day-to-day rut that you're in. And it can be at any size or at any level. That's to me what an adventure is.
I love it. No, that's perfect. I really appreciate it, Tim, you coming on here and being able to talk to everyone about this, concept of going west and again, my brand East Meets West, it says, okay, yeah, an Eastern guy trying to go west, but that's just, kind of the idea. So that could mean, it may be in your backyard, say this year, you're having a baby or something, big that's way more important than hunting is happening in your life. And maybe it's a 2-hour drive to, like North Central Pennsylvania, where I grew up, and doing a hunt for a long weekend or something. It's just the idea of finding what your own adventure is and getting out of your comfort zone and making it happen. So again, thank you very much for coming on and talking with me.
No, thank you for creating your platform and speaking for the right voice. We're speaking the same language, and we're just going to reach, a couple of different audiences. And so I appreciate you doing what you're going to do, and wish you all the success in it. I think it's definitely needed. Definitely needed.
Thank you. So before we go, where can everyone find Solo Hunter at in about 100 different places?
Well, that's always been my philosophy: is don't limit yourself to where you can be seen, because everybody has their chosen platform of preference, and that's where a lot of pride gets into somebody. That I'm TV. I like TV. I'm a TV guy. That's where I'm going to be. You're missing out on being able to share your experiences with a lot of people in different demographics. So search Solo Hunter on YouTube. So it's youtube.com/Solo Hunter, all spelled out. It's solohunter.com on the website. I'd really like you to, Amazon is a great platform to be able to stream episodes on your mobile and download them and do all kinds of things. Like, it's amazing. Plus you can watch full feature film and sitcoms and everything else at the same time. Like, that's the beauty of a platform like that. And then we have the All Access platform, which is a subscription based on my website. You get discounted merchandise on the store. We're just about to release our own app where you can stream the podcast and episodes on there, and then you get automatic entry into some product giveaways and that type of thing. So we've given away a couple bows and some optics and bunch of stuff, just like everybody else in the business. But we're catering to our solo hunter nation, the solo nation, people that are strong and individuals, people that think just a little bit differently. Like, that's what we're all about.
Awesome. All right, Tim. Well, again, I appreciate you coming on, and we'll have to talk again soon. Good luck this season.
Nope, for sure. Yep. Thank you. You too.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of East Meets West Hunt with your host, Bo Martonic. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit eastmeetswesthunt.com, Facebook at East Meets West Outdoors, and Instagram at East Meets West Hunt. If you enjoyed today's episode, please review and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.